offensive. They need to vote with this we need to vote with the official opposition and take immediate actions to rectify the grave and serious problems they have caused in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
When we return to debate, the honourable member will have 3 minutes left, and then we can do questions and comments after that. And I'm going to take a little bit of a deep breath and allow the next member to come in. And the members all ready? Okay, good. Statements by members. Déclaration de député, l'honorable député de Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dutch Heritage Day is celebrated annually in Canada on May 5th to recognize and honour the contributions made by the Dutch community to Canadian society. It coincides with the anniversary of the liberation of the Netherlands by Canada during World War II, a day my own mother remembers well as she and her family were there. They came to Canada on the first ship after the war. My grandmother and her 6 children with the 7th on the way. They moved to Owen Sound where they re-established the dairy farm they had left behind in Holland, maintaining a connection to agriculture that informs my own role on the Agri Committee today. So I was delighted to meet with the Dutch Ambassador to Canada, Her Excellency Ines Koppeles, on Tuesday in an event hosted by the Speaker of the House. She spoke passionately about the many areas of shared values and cooperation, from security and agricultural innovation to respect for the freedom of the press and technological advancements. I was also able to meet with members of the Liberal Party of Holland during the meetings of Liberal International in Ottawa over the last 2 days. It was a great opportunity to see so many of my colleagues celebrating Holland. The Dutch community in Canada is one of the largest and most well-established immigrant communities in the country. I'm proud to be of Dutch descent, and to all Canadians of Dutch descent, especially my mother and her family, and those of Dutch descent living in my riding of Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill, thank you for all you've done, and for the Dutch treats like stroopwafel, pannenkoeken, and oliebollen. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, a few weeks ago, 7 people were attacked with bear spray in broad daylight on a Calgary LRT platform. 2 of the victims were my daughters. The investigating officer said that it was the 8th such incident that week. Fortunately, they weren't seriously injured, but sadly, Mr. Speaker, violent attacks are now a daily occurrence on Canada's transit systems. In April alone, there was an Edmonton bus stop stabbing, a sexual assault on a Toronto bus, a shooting on a Calgary bus, 3 separate stabbings on the SkyTrain in BC, and a stabbing murder on a Surrey bus. Mr. Speaker, people need public transit. It's part of the solution for reducing traffic congestion and emissions. But people won't take transit if this government won't do something about the chronic, violent, repeat offenders who make our communities and our transit systems unsafe.
The honourable member for Vancouver, Granville.
Mr. Speaker, as Liberals from across Canada gather in Ottawa this weekend, we will be missing a woman that left an indelible mark on our Vancouver Liberal family. On April 25th, Audrey Sajonki, a tireless advocate for women in politics, passed away peacefully at her home in West Vancouver. She dedicated her life to education and to giving back to her community. She believed deeply in a progressive, inclusive Canada and ran for the Liberal Party of Canada in the 1993 election. Hers was the first campaign I ever worked on. She made sure my voice and the voices of young volunteers on her campaign were included in every aspect of what she did. And she never forgot her volunteers. Every time I saw her, even after I was elected to this House, she reminded me of how grateful she was for the work I had done for her 30 years ago, and how proud she was of all of us that had achieved great things from her campaign. Among her many achievements, she was president of the United Way of the Lower Mainland, a board member at the Vancouver Port, and at the Vancouver Art Gallery. She was also a proud Ukrainian Canadian and deeply involved in the Ukrainian Orthodox community. She leaves behind her loving son Toma, his partner Lee, her grandchildren Alexa and Lucas, and countless other relatives and friends. Rest in peace, Audrey. We'll be thinking of you this weekend and always. Vishnaya Pamat, memory eternal.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquin-Angers. Mr. Speaker, we are in the midst of Mental Health Week, which this year invites everyone to share their stories. On this occasion, I would like to hear some stories that we don't hear often enough. The stories of our farmers and producers. Behind the beautiful landscapes of our regions lies a life of challenges and too often solitude. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to salute and commend all of our proud farmers and say to them, tell us your story. Do not accept to carry an undue burden alone, no matter how strong your shoulders are. Speak out. Get help if you need it, whether it's from a loved one, a farm worker, Heart of Farm Families, or a health professional, or from the UPA. Above all, know that we see you at work 7 days a week. Persevere through the bad times, labor problems, the uncertainty of succession, and foreign competition. Know that Quebecers are with you.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, as a Portuguese Canadian, I'm honoured to rise today on behalf of the Portuguese diaspora in Canada and across the world. Initially established as Portuguese Language and Culture Day in 2009, in 2019, UNESCO officially proclaimed May 5th World Portuguese Language Day, Dia Mundial de Língua Portuguesa, and since then celebrated to honor the Portuguese language and its cultural significance worldwide. Portuguese is spoken by more than 265 million people globally, making it the 5th most spoken language in the world. Primarily spoken in Portugal, Brazil, Mozambique, Angola, Guinea-Bissau, Cape Verde, São Tomé Príncipe, also in India's Goa region and Macau, China. My sincere thanks to the Portuguese ambassador in Canada, Antonio Rocha, and Mrs. Luisa Rocha for their great service to our Portuguese Canadian community. Viva a língua portuguesa! Obrigado! Thank you!
The Honourable Member for Souris Moose Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are completely out of touch when it comes to the future of energy production and electricity in Saskatchewan. The plan to completely shut down coal-fired power by 2030 and the quite likely natural gas by 2035 is idealistic but entirely unrealistic. These federal initiatives would mean the end of up to 86% of the power production in Saskatchewan by 2035. Thankfully, our Premier has stated that despite the federal Liberals' misguided policies, the province will not risk plunging our homes, our schools, our hospitals, and our businesses into a cold and dark evening. He is right. Soaring rhetoric cannot change the laws of thermodynamics, and the federal plan ignores the reality that Saskatchewan requires homegrown, reliable, affordable electricity that is available on demand. Conservatives understand that we cannot put the security of Saskatchewan's energy system in jeopardy for the sake of ineffective Liberal policies. It is time to make Canada proud, honoured, and respected once again. It is time for a new Conservative government.
The Honourable Member for Vancouver Kingsway.
Speaker, on March 18th, the Sri Guru Ravidas Sabha Vancouver marked a momentous day by breaking ground at the site of their new Gurdwara. This wonderful organization was established in 1982 and provides both a place of worship for Sikhs and a center for social, educational, and cultural activities for the entire community. For over 4 decades, their congregants have shared and taught us all the values of equality, justice, and compassion. Congratulations to Vancouver Kingsway resident and Gurdwara president Bill Basra and his entire executive on their initiative and hard work to get to this exciting point. Mr. Basra is a pillar of the community who helps people from all walks of life. He's a shining example of kindness, generosity, humility, and true leadership. I look forward to celebrating at the official opening of the new Gurdwara with all who are contributing to its creation. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
The Honourable Member for Milton.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. May 5th is Dutch Heritage Day in Canada. The bonds of history and friendship between Canada and the Netherlands are unbreakable. Dutch immigrants have been coming to Canada for over 100 years, and today, over 1 million Canadians can proudly claim their Dutch heritage. That includes my dad, Joe, our siblings and cousins, and over 2,000 Miltonians. Even Princess Juliana, before she was Queen of the Netherlands, sought refuge in Ottawa during the dark days of the Nazi occupation. By 1943, she was expecting a daughter, but couldn't return home, so Canada declared the Ottawa Civic Hospital outside of Canadian territory, allowing Princess Marguerite to be born a Dutch citizen. 78 years ago today, the Netherlands was liberated by a Canadian-led force, which they still celebrate and remember today. Dutch tulip farmers and their royal family send us tens of thousands of tulips for Ottawa's annual Tulip Festival. So as you walk around Ottawa in the coming days and weeks as the tulips bloom, thank Holland. Our two countries share so much, a commitment to fighting climate change, investing in science and innovation. We're also two of the first countries to legalize same-sex marriage. And to this day, our mutual admiration for our two nations runs strong across the Atlantic Ocean. Like over 1 million Dutch Canadians, I'm proud of my Dutch heritage and proud of our truly diverse and multicultural Canada. Thank you.
The honourable member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Canadians are out of money, and the Prime Minister is out of touch and out of the country. This is the Prime Minister's record in just the last 5 months. 5 lavish vacations, living it up in New York with celebrities, a $162,000 vacation to Jamaica paid for by the Trudeau Foundation donors.
True.
Under this Prime Minister, overdoses are up 300%. 22 people a day are dying from overdoses. People do not feel safe in their community. Yesterday, I met with a paramedic who has to wear a bulletproof vest to work every day. There are viral videos of people lining up down the street for food banks. Leadership is taking responsibility, not observing. Leadership means you give people hope and opportunity. Leadership means pivoting and changing when things aren't working. Canada doesn't have a leader. Canada has a Prime Minister who deflects responsibility and is completely out of touch with the suffering he is causing. Canadians are out of...
The honourable member for London West.
We recognize the International Day of Midwife, a day to recognize the essential contributions that midwives make to ensure safety, quality, and reproductive for newborn care to pregnant people, mothers, and babies everywhere. The Canadian Association of Midwives not only supports midwives in Canada, but also works towards improving sexual and reproductive health and rights of women and girls globally. Canadian midwives are playing their part in providing capacity building, education, and clinical expertise to midwives in countries such as South Sudan, Somalia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Haiti. We have over 2,300 midwives who are providing primary health care and about 120 Indigenous midwives providing culturally appropriate care to their communities. Midwives are also well positioned to address specific challenges still faced by a rural, remote, and Indigenous community in Canada. The world, including Canada, needs more midwives to ensure equitable access to primary care for all Canadians, regardless where they live in this vast country. So join me today in celebrating midwives across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Foothills.
It's unconscionable. The Prime Minister is making the victim the villain. An agent of the communist regime in China attacked a member of this House and his family. Period. Instead of defending every parliamentarian, all Canadians, members of the Liberal caucus have attacked the honourable member of Wellington-Halton Hills. They have falsely claimed that our colleague has no credibility. They have also claimed that he knew about the attacks on his family. Liberal, do they really think that Canadians believe that the honourable member knew about threats against his family but did nothing? Well, at the same time, the Minister of Public Safety, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and even the Prime Minister were oblivious of these attacks and threats against a member of Parliament. By blaming the victim of these threats sends a very frightening message to Chinese Canadians and all Canadians who are being intimidated by Beijing and China. We will not defend democracy. We will not defend Canadians. We will not defend this House. They need to stand and expel this member.
Honourable member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola.
Canadians are out of money, the Prime Minister is out of touch and out of the country. Many of my constituents could only dream of lavish foreign vacations, a trip to New York hobnobbing with celebrities, or getting a free $80,000 vacay in Jamaica, courtesy of Trudeau Foundation donors. I don't think that this Prime Minister has any idea how difficult it is for a family in Kelowna struggling to pay over $1,000 a month more for a mortgage, or how crippling his hike in the carbon tax is for a family in Headley who has to drive to a different community to get their kids to school, to see a doctor, doctor or buy groceries. In Merritt, drug houses and pushers are immune from prosecution because of this Liberal government's drug decriminalization pilot project. And while the Liberals and NDP pat themselves on the back for this pilot project, let's not forget that their project set a new record for drug overdose deaths in BC for the first quarter. The police are powerless, but drug dealers are the ones who profit because of this Prime Minister's out-of-touch Liberal NDP ideology. The Canadians are out of money, the Prime Minister is out of touch and out of the country.
L'honorable député de Brassard-Saint-Lambert.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the coronation of our sovereign, King Charles III, and the beginning of a new reign of service to his 15 realms and the Commonwealth. Fulfilling an uniquely subliminal contract with the millions of citizens who rely on His Majesty to provide a continuity that is so difficult to define, I would like to offer King Charles III my sincerest wishes for a happy and productive reign. D'aussi loin que je m'en souviens.
For as long as I can remember, the principle of constitutional monarchies has attracted and engaged me. The state, as represented by the Crown, facilitates societal evolution in historical continuity. The new King of Canada, His Majesty Charles III, will have to weave tighter the bonds of affection and trust that he has developed with us over the years. But I'm convinced that he will be able to do so.
Long live the King.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, this week is Mental Health Awareness Week, and I wish to acknowledge the important work of Vancouver Island Mental Health Society, VIMIS. Starting with providing essential psychiatric rehabilitation supports, VIMIS now also provides services including housing programming, harm reduction services, psychosocial rehabilitation, community outreach, and public education. VIMIS's programming has supported thousands of people over the years. A resident of my riding shared a touching story about how they were struggling with intense and frightening delusions, marijuana withdrawal, and lacking sleep, which took a tremendous toll on their lives. VIMIS was there to provide necessary supports for them to get back on track to living a life of dignity and joy. This resident is now focused on their health, well-being, sobriety, and learning skills, including cooking, yoga, and attending university. This resident, Mr. Speaker, recently scored a 97.4% on their midterm. Congratulations. I want to thank all individuals working in mental health. Thank you, VIMIS, and others in Nanaimo Ladysmith. Your work matters to so many.
The Honourable Member for Avignon-Amétis Matapédia. Mr. Speaker, today, the 4th of May, is International Firefighters' Day. Throughout the world, we salute and commend the courage of those who fight fires and, more broadly, protect their fellow citizens against the forces of nature when they are unleashed. All over the world, but especially here today, as Quebecers have been shaken by the ultimate sacrifice of two of our own. 2 volunteer firefighters lost their lives in Saint-Urbain, swept away by the current whilst trying to rescue victims of high water. On behalf of the Bloc Québécois, I would like to offer my deepest condolences to the families, loved ones, and the community in the mourning of Christopher Lavoie and Régis Lavoie. This tragedy raises questions that must be answered regarding the deployment conditions of our volunteer firefighters and their safety. But by its very nature, this profession will always require a large element of risk. And that is the reason for which, on this International Firefighters' Day, the entire population will always be indebted to those who respond. Brother firefighters, sister firefighters, thank you for your dedication.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are struggling through the effects of inflation, high interest rates, and slowing economic growth. Canadians need a finance minister who will stand up and explain to them why they can no longer afford a home, why families have had to cancel vacations, and why millions are having to visit food banks. Instead, we have a finance minister who's only spoken 7 times in this House all year.
Wow.
She's refused 3 separate invitations to the Finance Committee. We are once again inviting her to speak at Finance Committee to defend her record of high taxes, enormous deficits, and slowing economic growth. The Minister of Finance is asking for Canadians to give her $490 billion, $60 billion in new spending and $12 billion in unallocated spending. All we're asking for at Finance Committee is 2 hours. I'm asking her today, through you, Mr. Speaker, does she really believe that her time is worth more than $8 billion per minute? Is there something more important to her than the Canadian public? It's time she stood up in this House and was accountable.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, on May 5th, the National Day of Awareness for Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirit People, we must reckon with the nationwide emergency that is the horrible, continuous loss of these precious lives. I am devastated that as time passes, we continue to lose mothers, sisters, aunties, daughters, cousins, and friends. Just this week, we learned of yet another young woman in Alberta who was senselessly taken from those who knew and loved her. This emergency demands immediate action and adequate investments. We need to implement the calls to justice. First and foremost, we must follow the lead of women and survivors on the path of healing and reconciliation. This is a systemic crisis that needs systemic solutions. We must ensure that women have access to all the resources they need to have their rights fully respected. This is why I wish to echo the calls by the member for Winnipeg Centre and many others to implement a red dress alert system. I believe that this alert would raise awareness of this crisis and would save countless lives. The time for discussion is over. The time for urgent action is now. Indigenous women and girls and diverse gendered peoples deserve love, safety, and justice.
Oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, members of the government said earlier today in the House that I had known for 2 years about the specific threat that a PRC diplomat in Toronto was gathering information to target my family. That is false. I'll categorically state again for the record that the defensive briefing of 2 years ago in June of 2021 was general in nature. It did not contain any information about the specific threat that a PRC diplomat in Toronto, Mr. Wei Zhou, was targeting my family. Will the Prime Minister correct the record to stop the spread of this misinformation?
The Honourable Minister for Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure my colleague opposite that we take the concerns that he has expressed and that have been expressed in public with regards to foreign interference and the targeting of himself and his family extremely seriously, which is why we will continue to work with him, provide him with briefings. I would also point out, Mr. Speaker, that earlier today we tabled the 2022 CSIS report, wherein it states, among other things, that CSIS provided briefings to 49 federal parliamentarians, and by working with everybody, we can protect our democratic institutions.
I want to remind the honourable members. The honourable member, well, I'm not going to say honourable member. Did he want to withdraw that, please? Do you want to withdraw that? No. Order. Order. What's his writing? Grand Prairie, Mackenzie. That you do not respect the chair. The chair will not recognize you while you're in this House. The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills, please continue.
Mr. Speaker, I've just been informed by the National...
Withdraw and apologize. The chair will not recognize you for the next, well, no, until you do, indefinitely. The Honourable Member for Wellington, Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, I've just been informed by the National Security Advisor that the CSIS Intelligence Assessment of July 20th, 2021 was sent by CSIS to the relevant departments and to the National Security Advisor in the PCO. This report contained information that I and other MPs were being targeted by the PRC. This contradicts what the Prime Minister said yesterday. He said CSIS made the determination that it wasn't something that needed to be raised to a higher level because it wasn't a significant enough concern. Will the Prime Minister correct the record that this report and information was sent to the departments and to the Privy Council office?
The Honourable Minister of Public Service.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague for sharing that update with this chamber. I can also assure him that, as the Prime Minister said, and I said earlier this week, that we found out on Monday of this week, which is why we acted very quickly and decisively to reach out directly to the member for Wellington Halton Hills, make sure that he was offered a briefing, had that briefing happen, and we will continue to work with him to address and mitigate any concerns around foreign interference, because every member in this chamber deserves to be able to do their work in representing their constituencies in a manner that is safe and secure.
The honourable member for Wellington Halton Hills.
Mr. Speaker, CSIS has been advising the government, the departments, the Privy Council Office, the National Security Advisor, deputy ministers, that foreign agents in Canada, foreign diplomats in Canada are presenting a threat to Canadian MPs in this House of Commons. In fact, the 2022 intelligence report of CSIS today says that these threat actors must be held accountable for their clandestine activities. And we also will continue to inform national security stakeholders and all Canadians about foreign interference. So why is the government not listening to the advice of CSIS and not listening to the advice in the reports that are being distributed here?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, taking concrete action, and in fact, as my colleague, I hope, would know, the Minister for Global Affairs earlier today summoned the Chinese ambassador to ensure that we're clear about any consequences around hostile activities or foreign interference, and that is very much consistent with Canada's strong record in condemning this kind of behavior. Moreover, we'll continue to work with all parliamentarians to protect the people that work in this chamber so we can uphold our democracy.
Honorable député de Mégantic.
Honourable member for Mégantic-Lérable. Mr. Speaker, it's a dark day for democracy. Rarely have we seen a political party fall so far so fast. A member of this House is the victim of intimidation from Beijing, and the members for Winnipeg North and Kingston and the Islands, on behalf of this government, on behalf of this Prime Minister, have continued the trend and are now conspiring against our Conservative colleague. They're spreading disinformation, and they should be ashamed. Why are they defending Beijing instead of a Canadian member of Parliament? When will the Prime Minister finally apologize for the unconscionable attitude of his political party? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, I would like to reassure my colleague that we share the concerns of the member for Wellington Halton Hills, and that is why we offered him a briefing. CSIS delivered that briefing. We're going to continue to offer him all the support he needs, and to all members who work in this House of Commons to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable. Disinformation, disinformation, disinformation. The member for Wellington Halton Hills learned today that the memo from CSIS, which stated that he was clearly a victim of intimidation by a diplomat in the consulate in Toronto, had been transferred to just about everyone on the Liberal side. And they did nothing. They didn't expel any diplomat, and they continue to spread disinformation. When will they finally apologize, Mr. Speaker? They should be ashamed to even attend their convention. The Honourable Minister of Public Safety, of Foreign Affairs. Mr. Speaker, I understand the frustration, the fear on the part of our colleague, and the fact that he and his family were targeted by the Beijing government. And that is why we will always say that any form of foreign interference is unacceptable. Now, that is why my deputy minister today summoned the Chinese ambassador. And, Mr. Speaker, if I may continue to speak without my colleague interrupting me, if I may continue to express myself, Mr. Speaker, what we also said. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, a new development. According to the Prime Minister, it was CSIS that didn't inform a member of the opposition that he was being threatened by China. But Richard Fadden, former head of CSIS, demolished this excuse in the Globe and Mail. He explained that not only was the memo found by the media sent to the Prime Minister's staff, but also to Foreign Affairs and Public Safety. So, at the very least, the Prime Minister and 2 ministers got that memo. So, why did the Prime Minister keep it a secret? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. It was not until Monday this week that the Prime Minister, myself, and the government members were informed of the concerns regarding the member for Wellington Halton Hills. And after that, we took action. We offered a briefing to the member on the other side, and we are going to continue to work together with all members in this House to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is blaming CSIS, but he's been ignoring their warnings for years. Even before the 2019 election, CSIS warned him that a Liberal candidate was perhaps supported by China. He turned a blind eye. Then CSIS said that the same Liberal was discussing the 2 Michaels with Beijing. He turned a blind eye. And then in 2021, CSIS said that China was threatening an opposition member, and he turned a blind eye. He was only interested now because the info was leaked to the media. Is it worthy of a member of Five Eyes to blame his own intelligence service for his voluntary blindness? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, the government is working very closely with our allies, including G7, the Five Eyes, and that is why we created a protocol to fight disinformation, and that is why we're going to continue to work with all parliamentarians to fight foreign interference with resources. But this is not a partisan issue. This is a cross-Canada issue, and all parliamentarians need to stand in solidarity to protect our democratic institutions.
The Minister has been the leader of the Liberal Party for 10 years, and in those 10 years, there's been a lot of broken promises and empty words, in particular when it comes to housing. The Prime Minister promised to make housing more affordable, and it's been the opposite. It's become more expensive than ever before. Now, at the same time, profiteers have been making more money than ever before. So when will the Prime Minister take the housing crisis seriously and acknowledge that we are in an emergency situation that needs urgent action to fix?
Here, here. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. We share the same goal, which is to increase the housing supply for all Canadians in this country, and that is exactly what we did with the National Housing Strategy. We invested more money. We also invested in the right to housing, and we're going to continue to work for all Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, but housing costs have become higher than ever. It's been 10 years that the Prime Minister has been in office, and he has completely failed in addressing the housing crisis. He doesn't walk the talk, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that there is a crisis in our housing system. So when will this government finally take this crisis seriously and fix the problem? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague for his question. But in Quebec, when you talk about walking the talk, it's because they are lacking in arguments. Mr. Speaker, this national housing strategy got 400,000 people, or rather 36,000 people got them off the street. It helped 68,000 people get a home, and we invested $4 billion in housing for Indigenous people. So we are people who get things done.
For Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, a massive hole has been blown through the Prime Minister's story about the foreign interference campaign and harassment of a member of Parliament's family. We now have confirmation that CSIS informed the National Security Advisor to the Prime Minister that members of Parliament's families were being targeted by an operative from the communist regime in Beijing and to intimidate that member's family because of a vote in this House of Commons. The Prime Minister claims that he only found out about it on Monday. We now know they've known about this for 2 years. So why have they allowed this operative to continue this interference campaign, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Speaker, as my colleague heard earlier today during this question period, my colleague, the Minister for Global Affairs, has summoned the Chinese ambassador to make it abundantly clear what is legitimate and what is not. And this is consistent with Canada's strong position when it comes to hostile activities, especially with regards to foreign interference. Every single member in this chamber has a right to be able to represent their constituents in complete and total safety. We will continue to work across the aisle with all parliamentarians to make sure that that objective is secure.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
So, Mr. Speaker, it sounds like the Minister of Public Safety is saying that the Chinese consular office had to be told what's allowed and what's not allowed in Canada when it comes to foreign interference. And that's their excuse for letting this operative stay. This operative from the communist regime has been conducting an interference campaign and a harassment campaign targeting a member of Parliament's family because of a vote in this House of Commons. We now know they've known about this for 2 years. Right. Why is this operative still in Canada?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's one thing I'll agree on, and that is Canada's will always be clear about what the boundaries are and what is right, what is legitimate, and what is lawful, and what is not. And I'll tell you something else, Mr. Speaker. That is a far better approach than the one that the Conservatives proposed when we were getting the 2 Michaels back, which would have been to capitulate to the People's Republic of China. We'll never do that. We'll always stand up for human rights. We got the 2 Michaels back, and we'll make sure we protect all members in this chamber so we can uphold our democracy.
The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, today 2 high-ranking senior Liberals entered this House claiming that the member for Wellington Halton Hills was briefed 2 years ago about the threatening allegations and simply ignored it. Didn't talk to colleagues, didn't talk to his family in Canada or abroad. This is outrageous, inexcusable, but most importantly, unbelievable. To the Public Safety Minister, Canadians are watching you, sir, and demand an answer. When were you first briefed?
I want to remind the honourable members, in order to ask a question, please do not ask directly or speak directly to each other, but speak through the chair. The Honourable Public Safety Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first I would like to reiterate that we do take the concerns that have been expressed by the member for Wellington Halton Hills very seriously. That's why as soon as we were informed about this issue, which was Monday of earlier this week, we reached out to him directly. We offered a briefing to him. We made sure that that briefing happened, and we will continue to work with him and all members to make sure that we can uphold our democracy.
The Honourable Member for Brantford Brant.
Mr. Speaker, enough of the political spin. An attack on one member is an attack on this entire House. Canadians have questions. It's time for the Public Safety Minister to start answering them honestly and directly. When was this minister made aware that an agent of Beijing's Toronto office was intimidating a sitting member of this House?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, might I suggest that my colleague across the way listen carefully to an answer that I've given now on multiple occasions. As I said, I was informed on Monday of this week with regards to the specific issue pertaining to the member for Wellington Halton Hills, and shortly thereafter I reached out to that member. I wanted to make sure that he knew that he would have my support, that he would have our government's support, because we in fact do care for his security, for his family's security. This is not a partisan issue, and making scandalous allegations doesn't advance the debate around national security. We need to work together to protect our democracy. That's what we're committed to doing.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, the minister had just said that this is not a partisan issue, but this government made it one. This morning, 2 parliamentary secretaries who were high-ranking said in this House that the member for Wellington Halton Hills knew for 2 years that the Beijing government had targeted him and his family. Earlier, the member just said that this was not true. Mr. Speaker, there is there anyone on the other side who have a sense of honor and dignity, and will they apologize? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, yes, of course. That is why the government contacted the member for Wellington Halton Hills to express our support for him and his family. We are supporting him, and not only him, but all members in this House. We have to work together in good faith to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, this is outrageous. The victim here is the member for Wellington Halton Hills, and the attacker is the Liberal government this morning. Instead of defending the member, they are attacking him. That's the reality. That's what happened this morning, not once but twice, both by parliamentary secretaries. So I am calling on all the ministers of this government, and I know them. I know that they are honourable, and I know they're people of dignity. So which one is going to stand up to apologize to the member for Wellington Halton Hills? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, this government will always defend the rights of members of Parliament to do their work safely, with no foreign interference, and that is why we put in place mechanisms and powers to do so. That is why we strengthened our level of transparency with the creation of HoC to work in a cross-party fashion, because we need to work together to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, CSIS published its annual report this morning, and it confirms the existence of police stations, Chinese police stations in Quebec and in Canada. It also confirms that China has been bullying its diaspora with agents from its public safety department, and it confirms that Beijing is seeking to influence candidate nominations for elections and to influence their policy stances as well by clandestine means. Mr. Speaker, when this info appears in a public report, it's because the Prime Minister has known about it for a long time. So why does nothing move unless there's a leak to the media? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank my colleague for shedding light on the excellent work that CSIS has done, which in its report tabled today. And the report indicates that CSIS offered 49 briefings to members of Parliament from this House, and that is a concrete example of how we can do work to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, speaking of newspapers, the minister said that the article in the Globe and Mail was false when it said that the government had been informed that a member of the opposition had been targeted by threats from China. Today, all of a sudden, he's changing his tune and confirmed that the information existed, but it was CSIS who didn't tell him. So the information does exist, and the briefing note revealed by the Globe and Mail specified clearly that China could target a number of members of Parliament. It was written in English, Canadian MPs with an S. Are there other members? Who are they, and have they been warned? The Honourable Minister of Public Safety. Mr. Speaker, the issue of foreign interference is not new. It has existed for years, and that is why, since our government came to power, we have introduced new powers for CSIS. We have invested additional resources, and with NCIRA and NSICOP, we have strengthened the level of transparency, and that is how best to protect our democratic institutions. The Honourable Member for Laurentides-Labelle. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister was informed in 2021 that a member of the opposition was targeted by threats from China, and he did nothing. Today, he will neither confirm nor deny the information obtained by the Globe and Mail that China could be targeting other members of Parliament. All we want is for him to tell us yes or no. Are there other members of Parliament, and are they aware? That is why the Prime Minister does not deserve our trust in the matter of Chinese interference. He does not want to shed any light on the matter. So when will finally a public inquiry be set up? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have made investments, and we trust our agents who work in matters of national security to do a good job and to protect all parliamentarians in this House. It's not easy. There are challenges, but if we can work together, we can better protect our democratic institutions.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Central Okanagan, Similkameen, Nicola.
During this debate, two members of the Liberal government have claimed that the member for Wellington Halton Hills had known for 2 years that his family was being targeted by Beijing operatives on Canadian soil. That is categorically false, Mr. Speaker. Those members should be ashamed for their victim blaming and trying to shift responsibility away from the Prime Minister, who has not stood up for Canada and for Canadians. If the Prime Minister won't expel these Liberals from his own caucus for promoting conspiracy theories and disinformation, will he very least expel these communist operatives who are still in Canada, Mr. Speaker? Will they?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I have to rise in my place because I think it's important for us to take a step back and recognize right now that as Russia and China, yes, target this House and all democratic places everywhere, there is absolutely no question that this government, and I would say no government in the history of Canada, that would see a threat against any parliamentarian as anything other than a threat against every single person in this House. The assertion that anything else is the case is ridiculous. All of us stand firm and resolute against the threat to democracy. It is absolutely a threat against us all, and we will rise to the hour every time.
The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
Liberals have not only failed to do anything about the fact that a diplomat from Beijing has targeted a member of Parliament and his family because of how he voted in the House of Commons. Today, they've stooped to a disgusting new low. The Liberal MPs from Kingston and the Islands and Winnipeg North have both stood in this House to imply that it is the MP for Wellington Halton Hills who himself is to blame for the government's inaction. Will the Prime Minister rise in his place and apologize for these despicable false claims coming from these Liberal MPs?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, what we can agree on, unequivocally, is that it is disgusting.
The Honourable Government House Leader, please continue.
Mr. Speaker, what we can agree on unequivocally is that a targeting of a member of Parliament's family is an act beyond anything we can imagine. Every single one of us have dedicated our lives to democracy. We have seen ourselves...
Okay. I've gotten up twice already. The third time I'm getting up. Whoever's next from that party is going to go to the end, and we're going to start scrambling things. Not scrambling, exchanging. It's going to go to the back end of the line, and we'll let the next person who's last come in her place. So I'm going to ask everyone to be quiet and be respectful, ask questions quietly, and hear answers quietly as well. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know how many members of this chamber have been named and targeted by Russia. That number is high. I don't know how many members have been targeted by other foreign powers, but I do know this, that there are forces right now that would see democracy piled under the dirt, that would attack our democracy, and that we need to stand shoulder to shoulder, as we do with the member for Wellington.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins-Lévis. I'm ready.
Liberal MP from Winnipeg North said that the member from Wellington Halton Hills has known about the threats against him for 2 years. That is categorically false. The Liberal MP from Kingston and the Islands said that the MP for Wellington Halton Hills was briefed on these specific threats 2 years ago. This is categorically false. Liberals are now targeting the MP who himself has been targeted by Beijing. So when will the Prime Minister get up and apologize for these Liberal MPs spreading these outright lies?
Will the honourable member for Chilliwack Hope withdraw his statement? Very good. Let me consult with the table and see exactly what we can do about that. Order. That's not allowed in the House. It's not parliamentary. So I'm going to give the honourable member one more chance, and then we'll move on, and we're not going to have many people left to ask questions. The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope, will he withdraw?
Mr. Speaker, I stand by what I said.
Good. The honourable member for Chilliwack Hope will not be recognized by the chair until he withdraws. The honourable member for Vancouver East.
The Liberals abandoned their responsibility to build social housing, and Canadians are paying the price. Under this Prime Minister, the cost of a home has nearly doubled. Successive Liberal and Conservative governments allow corporate landlords to buy up affordable housing stock and jack up the cost of housing for renters and homeowners alike. Will the Liberals stop treating housing as a commodity and commit to building at least 500,000 units of social housing and co-op housing so that families can find a home that they can afford?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je remercie ma collègue pour sa question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for her question. We agree about the challenges having to do with housing supply throughout the country. But my colleague knows that we have made historic investments since this government was elected, starting with the very first National Housing Strategy. We brought in 180,000 new housing units. We avoided having many people end up in the street. And I agree with her that there is still a lot more to do.
Vancouver Kingsway.
The Liberals promised universal public pharmacare in 1997. Since then, countless committees and commissions, including this government's own Hoskins report, have advised that single-payer pharmacare is the only way to go. But Canadians are still waiting for this Liberal government to keep their promise. While the Liberals protect Big Pharma's profits, the NDP is fighting to deliver public pharmacare so Canadians get the medicine they need. Yeah. After a quarter century of delay, will this minister finally commit to implementing universal public pharmacare?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Very, very grateful for the question. Very grateful for the opportunity to speak to what we are doing, indeed, to increase accessibility, affordability, and appropriateness of drug use in Canada. Mentioning the launch just a few weeks ago of the strategy for drugs for rare diseases, a $500 million investment every one of the next 3 years to make sure that children in particular and other people living with their rare diseases have access to those very important drugs. The Canada Drug Agency, which is going to be set up quickly to set up a national formulary, again, to reduce...
The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Charlemagne. Mr. Speaker, this week, several regions in Quebec were hard hit by floods. We were very saddened to learn that 2 firefighters in the Charlevoix region lost their lives while they were trying to help residents who were in danger. I send my full condolences to Christopher and Régis Lavoie's families in this difficult period. Can the Minister of Emergency Preparedness tell this House about the measures taken by the federal government to help communities affected by these floods?
L'Honorable Ministre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague, the member from Longueuil-Charlemagne, for her question and also for her join her in her condolences. Our deepest condolences, Mr. Speaker, go to the families of firefighters Christopher and Régis Lavoie. They went out in the middle of serious flooding to do their jobs and to save lives, and we mourn their loss and we recognize their sacrifice. And as Charlevoix and the Quebec region begins to recover from these floods, I have reached out to Minister Bonnardel to offer both our condolences and our support. We are monitoring the flooding conditions very carefully across the province. We'll continue to stand ready to ensure the province has the assistance that it needs in response and in recovery. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs has said that she is assessing interests in determining whether to expel the Beijing diplomat who arranged to punish the family of the member for Wellington, Halton Hills. The minister has a choice to make because the number one priority of this government ought to be the safety and security of Canadians. And by allowing this Beijing thug to remain in Canada, they are putting Chinese Canadians at risk. So when will they get their priorities straight and send him packing today?
The Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Of course, when it comes to foreign interference, we will never tolerate it, and that's exactly what I said to my counterpart when I met with him a month ago, and that's also why we summoned the Chinese ambassador a bit earlier today. Now, Mr. Speaker, we're also, as a thoughtful government, assessing all the interests that are at stake. Why? Because we know, based on the two Michael's experience, that when it comes to the PRC, they will take action and will have an impact on our diplomatic, consular, and economic interests. That being said, all options are on the table, including the expulsion of diplomats. Thank you so much.
The honourable member for St. Albert, Edmonton will now be last. We'll now go to the honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Speaker, the Ontario government is actively looking to go backwards in the climate fight by building and expanding natural gas-fired electricity plants. Natural gas is no climate solution. The federal government must step in to ensure that Ontario doesn't undo hard-fought gains in the midst of a climate crisis. Their upcoming clean electricity regulations must deter provinces from this kind of climate backsliding. Will the minister commit to making these regulations stringent enough to stop natural gas expansion in Ontario?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my honourable colleague for his question. We made a commitment during the last election campaign to have a net zero grid by 2035 in Canada. Canada already has a grid that is 80%, more than 80% non-emitting, Mr. Speaker, and there are a number of provinces doing amazing things when it comes to renewable energy. Let's talk about Alberta, which in 2016 committed to eliminate coal by 2030. Alberta will have eliminated coal this year, Mr. Speaker. This is what we're aiming to do across the country.
Member for Caribou, Prince George.
Mr. Speaker, Beijing operative Zhao Wei sought information and the whereabouts of the family from the Member of Parliament from Wellington Halton Hills so that they could make an example of him. This is a direct threat against a sitting member of this House and their family. Zhao Wei is still in this country. The response from the Liberals today is to blame a sitting member of Parliament. Victim blame. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister do his job? Stop blaming victims, send a message to Beijing, and send Zhao Wei home.
The Honourable Minister of Public Safety.
Mr. Speaker, any suggestion that we don't have care or concern for the member for Wellington Halton Hills is absolutely absurd. I've reached out to that member. We made sure that we got a briefing. We'll continue to support him and all members in this chamber because every member of Parliament, indeed every parliamentarian, has a right to represent their constituencies. We need to do this work together so that we can push back against the forces of foreign interference and uphold our democracy.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse-les-Lévis. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to the Vienna Convention, it is possible to expel diplomats. The Prime Minister should send that memo to caucus. But the Minister of Foreign Affairs can't seem to make up her mind, and Liberal parliamentary secretaries are blaming the member for Wellington Halton Hills, a man who is very respected in this House. Everything is upside down. Instead of turning aside, will this Prime Minister expel that diplomat who should be persona non grata? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, as I previously mentioned, my honorable colleague for Foreign Affairs called in the Chinese ambassador to underscore that there are activities that are legitimate and others that are not legitimate, and in fact that are considered foreign interference. We will continue to condemn what was done to protect our democratic institutions. The honorable member for Rivière du Nord. According to the Prime Minister, everyone's going to be glued to their TV this weekend to watch the coronation of Charles III. According to the PM, Canadians are looking forward to celebrating His Majesty's coronation. I'm not sure who he's talking about, but certainly not Quebecers. Now, if he had said Canadians are looking forward to getting rid of the monarchy, that would have been at the very least more factual. It's not too late to make things right. When will this government get rid of this passé and anti-democratic institution? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, Quebecers are currently facing heavy flooding. They are facing climate change. They are concerned about affordability, about the housing crisis. They're concerned about our health system, which is under strain. And yet the Bloc Québécois is spending all its time in this House talking about the monarchy. Our Liberal government is firmly concentrated on the real priorities of Quebecers and all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Rivière du Nord. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that we're always being told that we should talk about something other than the monarchy, despite that, the Prime Minister is trying to have us believe that the coronation will be the most popular media event since his hit TV show, La Petite Vie. Yet this government has decided to hand out 30,000 coronation medals. And this government is going to arrive in London with a couple dozen representatives plus staff, which is once again going to cost us an arm and a leg. So if the monarchy isn't a priority for this government, can the minister explain why there's this whole media circus around it? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, am I dreaming? For those who are watching at home, everything is upside down. The Bloc Québécois is using up our time in the House to talk about the royalty and the monarchy and the coronation. It's so confusing at a time when there is flooding in Quebec, at a time when we're talking about cell phone fees, health, and all sorts of other important things. Suddenly, the Bloc Québécois has decided it wants to talk about the monarchy. On this side of the House, we will continue to work for Quebecers about things they really care about. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. That is the legacy of a Liberal Prime Minister, his legacy to Canadian society over the last 8 years. Mr. Speaker, letting out violent reoffenders and the decriminalization of hard drugs are increasing violent crime and overdoses in our communities. Why is this Prime Minister so determined to send us into a dead end? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve to feel safe and to be safe. That's exactly why we are working hard with the provinces and territories to strengthen the parole system. We will continue to take these decisions under our jurisdiction, and we will find solutions by working together, because these are complex issues. We are working together, and I hope to have more news shortly. The Honourable Member. Mr. Speaker, at a time when everything is costing more, at a time when Canadians are suffering and struggling, the Prime Minister has taken not 1 but 5 luxury trips abroad to get a nice tan and live the high life in New York. It's a scandal, Mr. Speaker. Housing costs have doubled. Instead of wasting our money, what will this Prime Minister do to reduce inflation throughout Canada? The Honourable Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, do you know what's a scandal for people who are watching us today? It's to know that the Conservatives are going to vote against the budget, Mr. Speaker. A budget that was designed for Canadians throughout the country. Canadians listened. We listened to Canadians, rather. They told us that the most important thing is the cost of living, the cost of groceries, and we are presenting a grocery rebate for millions, 11 million Canadians who will benefit from that. Canadians have asked us to help them with health care and dental care. They've asked us to invest in tomorrow's economy. We even brought Volkswagen to Canada to build our country, and that's what a responsible government would do.
For Hastings, Lennox, and Addington.
While Beijing agents strike at the heart of Canadian democracy, imperiling our freedoms by threatening our democratically elected members and their families, the Prime Minister is off on lavish Jamaican junkets and footing Canadians with a bill. After 8 years of ineffective and inept governance, Canadians are out of money, and the Prime Minister is not only out of touch, but also often out of the country. Mr. Speaker, when will this government finally start taking responsibilities seriously, or get out of the way so we can start tackling the crises that are paralyzing Canadian society?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
As I've said to this House on many occasions, the member is right. The Prime Minister took a vacation with his family over Christmas. He did so staying at a friend's house. If the member is either asserting that the Prime Minister shouldn't be able to take a vacation with his family at Christmas, or is the member asserting that if he does so, he doesn't have security, which was the vast preponderance of the cost. It seems that they want to torque and play partisan games with a family vacation that the Prime Minister took. I think that's inappropriate, Mr. Speaker.
Member, l'honorable député de Pontiac.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac. Mr. Speaker, everyone in Canada deserves to be safe. Tomorrow will be Red Dress Day, which is an opportunity to remember the tragedy of women and girls who are missing or murdered. We must all do more. Can the Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations tell this House about the work that this government is carrying out to protect women and girls in Indigenous communities? The Honourable Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my colleague for this question. We are all responsible when it comes to resolving the systemic issues that are continuing to feed this national crisis, and in order to implement calls to justice. That's why Budget 2023 invested $120 million to implement the National Action Plan, support the National Families and Survivors Circle, and create a Red Dress Alert. We are determined to continue working with survivors, their families, and communities to continue this important work.
Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, while this Prime Minister is living it up, taking international celebrity selfies, a generation of Canadians are giving up on home ownership. Down payments have doubled, rents have doubled, mortgage payments have doubled. Builders can't build because it takes years just to get permits in Canada's large cities. When will this government do something about the big city gatekeepers who are choking Canadians out of access to a home?
Yep. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I am a former municipal councillor, and for the first time in this House, a leader of a party has denigrated and insulted a duly elected municipal government. When you insult and denigrate, well, that's certainly not the way to get more housing built. I am disturbed about the fact that Conservative members, former mayors, I am shocked that they did not bring their own leader back into line.
Mr. Speaker, we'll always stand up for Canadians who can't access homes. The Prime Minister has been on 5 lavish trips already this year, including a vacation worth $80,000 paid for by Trudeau Foundation donors. He's out of touch and Canadians are out of money. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. A 41-cent a litre tax on gas, groceries, and home heating, and endless deficits that drive up interest rates, pushing access to housing even further out of reach. When will he get to work and stop making life more expensive?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
Mr. Speaker, we understand that Canadians are struggling right now and that there is a high cost of living. But unlike the Conservatives, Mr. Speaker, we're actually acting. We have put measures in place like the Canada Child Benefit, like the Climate Action Incentive, like increasing the Guaranteed Income Supplement, like the new grocery rebate. We are actually acting to help Canadian families at this time of struggle, where we know what the Conservative playbook was. Send checks to millionaires and make seniors work longer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, the fact of the matter is the policies of this government are the very ones that have been driving up inflation and making everything more expensive for Canadians. Now, as grocery prices are rising to the point where people have to turn to food banks, housing prices have doubled and many young people are worried they'll never be able to afford a home. The clawbacks on paychecks are making it so that people who are working harder are falling further behind. While all that is happening, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister continues to take lavish vacations like his $80,000 trip to Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, when will this Prime Minister finally take responsibility for what he has broken and fix this inflationary crisis?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives who have left the town of St. Thomas in southern Western Ontario down, Mr. Speaker. We have let 8,000 workers down, Mr. Speaker. We have let the auto sector down, Mr. Speaker. We'll do what we do best, Mr. Speaker, is to build a future for Canadians. We'll attract investment like Volkswagen. We'll create thousands of jobs. We'll build our auto sector. We'll build Canada for the 21st century, Mr. Speaker. That's what we will do.
The Honourable Member, l'Honourable Député d'Halifax West.
Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Halifax West, we know that search and rescue capabilities are critical to those in our fishing industry, to tourism, for the safety of Atlantic Canadians. Canadians need to know that no matter where they are, the Canadian Armed Forces will always answer the call. Could the Minister of National Defence please provide an update on the Cormorant helicopter fleet announcement she made in Halifax last week?
Well, Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, search and rescue capabilities are at the very heart of the expertise of the Canadian Armed Forces. That is why last week I was pleased to announce the expansion and upgrade of our Cormorant helicopter fleet, which is projected to add 650 jobs annually and $79 million to our economy annually, Mr. Speaker. And most importantly, it will ensure that our Canadian Armed Forces are always prepared to answer the call.
Bravo. The Honourable Member for Elmwood Transcona.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Canadian voting system promises 100% of the power to political parties that get less than 40% of the vote at election time. That's a problem the Prime Minister seemed to have understood in 2015 when he promised to change the voting system. Since then, opposition parties laid out a path forward. He threw that in the bin. In the last Parliament, Procedure and House Affairs Committee passed a motion to study this. He ended it by calling an election. Now at the Liberal Convention, there's a motion on the floor to look again at proportional representation. Will he respect the decisions of these democratic decision-making forums, or is he going to put his personal agenda ahead of that once again?
The Honourable Minister for Intergovernmental Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague from Elmwood Transcona for that question. We share a number of objectives that he and I have discussed on numerous occasions in terms of increasing the ability of Canadians to access voting, ensuring, for example, that campus voting is something that's prioritized by Elections Canada. We are always looking at ways, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that our electoral system is accessible, is reflective of the choices Canadians make in their governments. And, Mr. Speaker, I will continue to work with my colleague from Elmwood Transcona and others on ensuring that we have the best electoral system that we could possibly have.
Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Speaker, by allowing Zhao Wei to stay, the Liberals have given Beijing the green light to attack the safety and security of Chinese Canadians with impunity. Article 9 of the Vienna Convention gives the Minister of Foreign Affairs the unfettered discretion to expel any diplomat at any time for any reason. There is no excuse for delay. What is she waiting for? Will she expel this Beijing thug today?
The Honourable Minister.
colleague, the Minister for Global Affairs, has been abundantly clear that she has convened the Chinese ambassador to make it clear where the boundaries are, and obviously will continue to condemn any foreign or hostile activities here in Canada. What we've seen today, Mr. Speaker, has been shameful. We've seen unparliamentary language from the Conservatives. Why? Because they'd rather highlight the problem rather than be part of the solution. How do we know that, Mr. Speaker? Because instead of supporting this government and giving CSIS the tools they need, they opposed it. And instead of supporting the Committee of Parliamentarians, they continue to play Jekyll and Hyde with that committee. They need to stop politicizing this issue and get behind the cause of the government to defend our institutions.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have today for question period. I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of Her Excellency Merichel Batet Lamagna, President of the Congress of Deputies of the Kingdom of Spain. I would also like to draw attention of the members to the presence in the gallery of His Excellency Vlado Milosevic, President of the Chamber of Deputies of the Republic of Chile. And lastly, I would like to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of Mr. Karim Khan, Chief Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. Discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of the two firefighters who lost their lives in Saint-Urbain, Quebec. J'invite les honorables députés.
I invite honorable members to rise.
Merci. Thank you. Now we have a point of order. Is the honourable member for White Rocks,
Surrey White Rocks.
South Surrey White Rocks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise on a point of order. We are looking for some consistency in the Speaker's rulings. On March 31st, 2023, the Liberal Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Intergovernmental Affairs, Infrastructure and Communities said, and I quote, in this House, Madam Speaker, I am absolutely disgusted that the member opposite would outright lie. And yes, I am saying outright lie. Later on, when asked by the Speaker to withdraw that statement, the same parliamentary secretary said, and I quote, Madam Speaker, I will withdraw the word, but the sentiment remains that it absolutely did not, and then was cut off by the noise in the room. The point being, Mr. Speaker, that there should be consistencies in rulings from the chair. That member was neither sanctioned nor was time taken away from the Liberal Party, nor was that person threatened with being kicked out of this House or any similar type of sanction. We want consistency in the rulings from the chair so that we understand how it is we can and are able to conduct ourselves in this place.
Yeah. The honourable member for Uxbridge.
To clarify, perhaps this would help the members opposite. The Speaker's office did ask me to withdraw and apologize, and I respect the rules and decorum of this place, and I did just that. And I would suggest that the members opposite follow your same suggestions and rulings.
I mean, the honourable opposition whip.
That one cannot do indirectly what one cannot do directly. By saying that she withdrew the word but not the sentiment, she doubled down on what she was saying and on the remarks she had made. I need no lessons from the House Leader of the government.
If I could just order. I'm at one moment. I just want to say I'm trying to hear what the opposition whip is saying. Please start from the top, please, so I can hear everything. There's a discussion going back and forth.
The House Leader from the government side was not saying that I don't know my job or do not know how to address the Speaker. I am talking to the Speaker, the chair of these proceedings, and my statement is that you cannot do indirectly what you should not do directly. And by simply saying, I withdraw a word, not the sentiment, is doubling down on those words. We all know it, and this member was sanctioned in no way for those comments made on March 31st, 2023.
Yes.
I want to, the Honourable Government House Leader wants to rise on this point.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm sorry, we had another one down there.
The comment that is being
I'm sorry. Member for New Westminster, Burnaby, was up before the Honourable Government House
Thank
Leader.
you very much, Mr. Speaker. As I've said before, we empower you to ensure that there is order in this House and that there is a respect for all members at all times, including the Speakership. And I think it is appropriate for every member now to understand that if there is disorder and they do not heed the Speaker, that they may end up losing a question. That applies to all parties, and that is a fair and appropriate way to proceed. And when you ask, as you have quite rightfully, for members to withdraw their remarks and apologize, that they do so. This is appropriate, this is right, and these are the powers that we have granted to you as Speaker.
The Honourable Government House Leader, then the Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
Speaker, and let me clarify that the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructure actually was informed by the Speaker that if she wasn't to apologize, that she wouldn't be able to speak in the House. She did then go the next week and apologize unequivocally in the House. So I understand that the opposition whip may have not been present when the member was in the House and did apologize, but the Speaker was very clear that if the member did not apologize, she would not be able to speak. Subsequent to the quote she is making, many days later, I believe it was after we returned from a time in our constituency, she, at the first opportunity after returning from the constituency, she rose in her place. She clearly and unequivocally apologized, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country is rising on the same point of order.
Same point of order, Mr. Speaker. So just on this matter of consistency, I'd like to bring to your attention for consideration that on Tuesday of this week, I had to start a question again twice, so a total of 3 times. And I do appreciate the opportunity that I was able to do that, Mr. Speaker, but this was due to uproaring from the NDP and Liberal members. However, I do want to note that at the time, the Speaker did not insinuate to the NDP or Liberals the taking of questions due to their excessive disruption. So I would just like for you to take that as part of your consideration as well, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
I want to thank the Honourable Member for her input. I will be coming back to the House. I will look at what was done and what was asked. I know we have a record of everything, and I want to make sure that I come back with the appropriate response to what happened in the past. As of right now, I can speak for today, that if someone uses unparliamentary language, I will ask them to withdraw it. If they do not withdraw it, I will not recognize them because they are not recognizing the chair's authority. I think that's fair. That's from now on. And I am escalating because the insanity in this place has been escalating since we got back from the break. And I don't want to go into June with a nut house. It's just, and I'm sorry if nut house is not a parliamentary word, but it's exactly what it looks like. So what I want to, I'm not done yet. 1 second. Let me finish. And I just want to make sure that everybody's clear. And as far as the questions go, I mean, it's really unfortunate. If you want to speak to each other, please just cross over and go see each other, but don't shout back and forth. Now, let me finish. As far as the questions go, if one group is getting rowdy or trying to drown out the other side, it's no better than bullying in a schoolyard where a group is picking on one or another group. That's not acceptable in the House. So what I've done today, and I will continue to do, and it was unfortunate that it was the member for St. Albert Edmonton, because he's not part of the problem today. He just happened to be the victim of taking his question and exchanging it with the one at the back. Watch. So what will happen is we'll be using that tool to calm things down in the chamber. I hope people take it to heart and start respecting each other. Now, the Honourable Opposition Whip is rising on a point of order again, or on the same point of order?
No, a second point.
Okay, I believe the Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean just got up. L'Honorable Député de
The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we all need to calm down and especially be confident, place our trust in the Speaker that this House has elected. I hope that we can stay polite. When you speak, Mr. Speaker, I heard the NDP parliamentary leader shout to a women MP to sit down with a tone that was unacceptable. So I think everybody needs to take a deep breath. We have a Speaker who can make decisions. Let's be polite. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Before we go back, I believe the Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville was rising on this point of order. The Honourable Member for Yorkton Melville.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I think part of the issue here today is the inconsistency in which this type of behavior has been handled in the House across party lines, but also with inconsistencies with whoever happens to be in the chair. And so I would ask for consistency there. And it is really important that we don't escalate responses to a particular behavior in the House in a way that it looks very much partisan. The member across was allowed incredible latitude for a long time before she was required to do what you instituted in a second in this place. So I just ask for consistency.
It was instituted instantly on her part. I don't want to start an argument, but it took a while. It takes a while for people to come around, and that's human nature. So we have to deal with human nature in this House. The Honourable Opposition Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And just for clarity, we do respect your authorities. I agree that you are here in this place to bring order, sometimes from chaos, and that we respect those decisions. The issue was on consistency. So I leave it at that. This point of order, Mr. Speaker, I rise on, is another serious point of order to address two incidents that took place during the course of debate on the Opposition Day motion earlier today. As the Chair knows, the House is debating a Conservative motion that addresses the serious threats made against the family of the member from Wellington-Halton Hills. The statements I'm about to bring to your attention center around one defensive briefing provided by CSIS to the member of Wellington-Halton Hills about foreign interference 2 years ago. It is important to note that the member from Wellington Halton Hills has been clear in his public comments that he was actually in the House today during question period that the threats made to his family were never made known to him in that briefing. The only specific briefing he received happened this week, only after the matter became news reported by the Globe and Mail. Yet during the debate, both parliamentary secretaries to the government House Leader engaged in misinformation and disinformation in a blatant attack on the reputation of the member from Wellington Halton Hills. The member from Kingston and the Islands said about the threats, and I quote, "The member for Wellington Halton Hills had a defensive briefing on this 2 years ago, so he knew about this when it actually happened," end quote. The same member went on to say, quote, "It is true that I said that the member for Wellington Halton Hills received multiple defensive briefings. He did. He received multiple defensive briefings, and it is absolutely true that I have absolutely no idea what he was told." These comments are outright disinformation. The member from Kingston and Islands ought to know that there was only one briefing 2 years ago and that it was a general defensive briefing that did not contain information about specific threats. Yet he has allowed his false statements to stand on the record and was given many opportunities to withdraw. To make matters worse, the member from Winnipeg North said, and I quote, "The member for Wellington Halton Hills is known for 2 years," end quote, and then went on to accuse the member of doing nothing about these threats. The accusations made by the members of Kingston, the Islands, and Winnipeg North are false, and worse, they amount to victim blaming. I demand that these members rise to correct the misinformation and disinformation they provided to the House, and that they apologize for their attempts to impugn the reputation of an honourable member, it being the member of Wellington Halton Hills. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Kingston, the Islands, is rising on this point of order.
On this same point of order, Mr. Speaker, what I had indicated previously when I said that the member was aware of this, I apologize for the choice of words. What I was trying to imply was that he was aware that there were some threats that were out there, which is the reason why he received a defensive briefing. I apologize unreservedly for my choice of words, because in doing so, I have led people to believe that he knew about specifically what was being talked about today. So, Mr. Speaker, through you, to that member who I have a ton of respect for, to all Conservatives, to you, to the Chair, to this House, I apologize.
Okay, we can put that to rest. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader is rising on a point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and again, who's here and who's not here at times in which members stand up, just for clarification purposes. This is in fact what I had indicated, Mr. Speaker, and I quote from earlier today. Mr. Speaker, it was never my intention to say that the Prime Minister and the member had the same briefing. If that is in fact what I said, I would apologize for saying that. It was the same briefing, for saying that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lac Saint Jean.